You're listening to the Studyclix Podcast, your number one source for junior cycle and leaving certificate tips and advice. We are back with a bang. It has been a while since we've uploaded a podcast like this. Anyone who's a long-term listener will remember Emer and Nessa, their fantastic podcast a couple of years ago, but the baton has been passed on to myself and my two wonderful co-hosts. I'll let you introduce yourselves, guys.
Hi, I'm Andy. I make TikToks on Studyclix TikTok and sometimes Instagram. You may see me here and there making a fool of myself. So yes, very excited to get this underway with Luke and Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin. I also make TikToks for Studyclix, and I just started a few months ago, but I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, Erin's like the baby on the team. She's brand new, and we're just throwing her into the deep end with this podcast. I was going to say, if they're sick of seeing our faces on the social media, now they can be sick of hearing our voices too. Nice little double whammy. So basically, the plan for this podcast, this episode, and for the episodes going forward, is to kind of bring all the tips and tricks and advice that we can give you in preparation for your mocks, and then going on to the real deal exams. And we'll just share our own anecdotes and experiences. Like, none of us are, absolute study experts. We're all talking about our actual own advice, and we're going to kind of try and keep it real, and nothing too unrealistic. We're not going to tell you to study 6 hours a day, unless you want to study 6 hours a day, in which case, by all means. But today's podcast is going to take a focus of kind of a back to school after Christmas, and how to kind of knuckle down, especially for those that are going to be sitting the mocks in January, February, and then going on to the orals. It's like I feel like coming back, I don't know if you think the same, guys, like you get snapped back into reality so much more coming back after Christmas than coming back after summer. When you come back from summer, it's like so quiet and like not a lot happens for the first 2 months, whereas when you're back from Christmas, like, hi, here's your mock exams.
Yeah, I think definitely leaving cert, because it's just all go from that point.
Did you study for your mocks long in advance yourselves? Like, did you start before Christmas or did you wait until after?
I mean, I feel like the most important thing up to that point is just doing the work, and that kind of counts as study. Like, I did study after school, so like if I'd my homework done or whatever, like I do more study than in the evenings. But I suppose it kind of, because I naturally am quite a procrastinator, so it kind of isn't until like the panic really hits me that I'm like, oh no, like I have to I don't know, like I did study for my mocks in advance, but it wasn't like crazy, you know what I mean? Like, people seem to think that they need to be studying from their leaving cert from day one. That's like, like I think you can, like, if you haven't done loads of study like before this point, I wouldn't panic yourself, because I think people have done more than they think, even just from like doing their homework and their classwork.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of it is just keeping up to date with your homework before Christmas. There's a lot of it, and staying on top of everything, doing a little bit here and there. It definitely picks up a little bit when you come back, so it's a bit of a culture shock, especially if you had a nice relaxing Christmas. But I mean, look, the mocks are a good chance to see where you're at. If anything, they are very important, but they're not this big scary thing. They're a great chance to see what you need to improve on. So
yeah, they're definitely not the end of the world. And that's kind of my first point there. You kind of touched on it, both of you, really, is when you come back from Christmas, my main tip would be to start with a positive attitude, even if you've had a bad start to the year. So say if you're September, October, November, December, if you did like the bare minimum, kind of just forget about that and face into the second half of the year as if it was the first. Don't kind of dwell on the fact, I should have done more before Christmas. Like, that's not going to be any help, like, at all. I know myself, like, when I went back first, I hadn't started studying for the mocks until I think I started over the Christmas break, like just after Christmas. And my mocks were in like early February, and I spent like the first 3 weeks like beating myself up over the fact I should have started like 3 weeks before Christmas. But they're all fine in the end. Like, 3 weeks isn't going to make a humongous difference. So if you don't start until after, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like what Erin and Andy just said, I think none of us said that we started before Christmas. So if you're listening to this, try and get your feelings verified, then there you go, there they are. I don't know, Erin, do you have any specific tips on like how to get focused after being away for so long?
I think one thing that really helped me was really breaking down my study and kind of just laying out what exactly I had to get done. Because I think especially coming up to the mocks, for a lot of people, like, it might be your first kind of state exam, or that kind of layout anyway. It's not a state exam, but like a big scary exam. Scary is like, it's an exam, but like it's the first exam where you might have to cover like such a kind of extensive range of topics compared to class tests. So I think it's really easy to get yourself really overwhelmed thinking about everything that you have left to do, especially if you haven't really done much up to that point. So I think definitely like, you know, making like some kind of study plan or like a to-do list. I used to like live on to-do lists, and also I found it was so like rewarding to like, because I would like write like the smallest tasks on it, and anytime I'd do something like, I don't know, even like, I don't know, correcting something, I'd tick it off and be like, wow, I'm so productive. But like, I don't know, just little things like that to keep yourself on track and like not kind of, you know, because if you're just like doing random things and like all you're thinking about is how much you have to get covered, like you're just going to stress yourself out for no reason. So I think it helps you to get organized, and also to kind of just, you know, not lose focus and stay more positive.
Yeah, I used to be so guilty of like like that. I also find it so satisfying like having a big list and like highlighting things as you go that you've done. But I used to like do things to procrastinate other things and then write them down on the list and highlight them as if they were there in the first place to make myself feel like I had done more. But like it is 100%, like that just goes to show like it is 100% a mentality thing. Like it's, you know, like when you convince yourself that you've done the work, you know, it will shine through. So like I think it's a great tip, kind of get more organized with it so that you're kind of ready for it when it gets to the point where, you know, the exams are like next week and you feel like you haven't done anything. At least you can look at the list that you've ticked off. I've at least looked over those subjects.
I think a lot of it as well is I tried to, when I did my leaving cert, thinking back, trying to do a lot of past papers just before the mocks, because that really got me into the flow of what the questions are like and exactly what you're going to be asked. I mean, I didn't do many of them before Christmas, so it's kind of interesting to see exactly how they looked, because I mean, you get tests and stuff in class very often. Sometimes the tests can be a little bit different to what you see in the past papers. So I think doing a lot of past papers just before your exams, especially for things like maths and Irish, just seeing how the questions are worded. Because sometimes when I go into an Irish exam, I didn't even understand what the question was saying. And that was half the battle. So yeah, doing a lot of past papers just before the mocks, I think is if you don't know where to start, that's a good place to start, I think, as well.
Yeah, familiarizing yourself with kind of, even, you know, as you said, in Irish or in, if you're doing like Spanish or French, whatever, kind of understanding a lot of the times the questions will be the same, or at least the prompt for what you're doing. It's like, answer this many questions. Like that's all going to be in the foreign language too, or in Irish. Like, you know, you're going to have to get used to the kind of language of the exam. But like even outside of the languages, like, you know, knowing kind of, obviously there's only so much practice you can do. The questions on the day will be different. They'll be similar to ones you've seen, but kind of knowing the layout of an exam is huge. Like, do you know, there's people who go into exams, people being me, like their mocks, and they open up their paper and they think like like, you know, they thought maybe like there was so many parts of paper 1 of English that I thought were in paper 2. Like you would not, like I was like, how is there so much in paper 2? Like I was like, surely one thing, I thought you had to do something else on paper 1. Like I just think those exams are so like you know, like paper 1 makes paper 2 look impossible. But yeah, it's kind of just like getting to grips with the kind of layout of it. And I think especially because so many things have changed lately. Like I know, Erin, you're the one that's done the Leaving Cert most recently, just the year gone by, isn't it? Yeah. And like, did you find, because kind of, I think since COVID, it's kind of upended like everything. I don't want to expose my age, but you know, I was like a COVID baby. No, I was a COVID Leaving Cert student, so like it was different for me, even in the sense that like my exams were kind of derailed. Erin, did you find like, I feel like every year there's like a new amount of Shaw pictures that you're going to be examined on, or like you have this choice in English and this year you don't. Like, did you find that kind of confusing, or was it kind of all streamlined for you by your teachers?
In certain subjects, like I feel like Irish was kind of straightforward because it has been like 10 Shaw pictures for the past, I don't know how many years now. Like I think it's the same this year still, I'm pretty sure. And I kind of knew, because we had like a choice between 2 of like the poetry and the prose and things like that, so that was all fine. In certain other subjects, so it was kind of more vague. Like I remember for like maths, I had no idea what was different, or if anything even was at all. Even what you were saying about the layout of the papers, like I think it might have been like a week or something before the mocks before I actually found out what was on maths paper 1 and paper 2. I just had no clue. I don't know, like I find it is kind of confusing because like unless you actually go and look for it yourself, like it was rare that it was actually explained to you in class, like okay, you'll have to like answer this many questions and stuff. But I think that does make such a difference going in and knowing like, okay, you don't have to maybe answer every single thing on this paper, because I know for maths I think there was like one question in every section that we didn't have to answer. So I think that can really give you an advantage, you know, especially if you are feeling overwhelmed. It's like, okay, I don't have to rely on knowing every single thing that's going to be in this paper to do well.
I feel like it's the mocks when you, like, so many, I think it was my geography mock, you know, people went into it and were like answering questions on things we just simply, I think with geography, there's certain things maybe that you don't have to cover, that like some schools cover in more detail and then others will do it differently. But, you know, people were going in there and they just kind of thought, I have to answer every single question I see. Let me just write anything. And like they were writing things about biomes and we hadn't studied them yet. Or because that's the thing as well with mocks, they come at a time where you're not necessarily finished. That was like a huge thing. You're not expected, you can't be expected to answer questions on things that you are halfway through learning or have just done, so didn't have time to revise. Like, this is the thing about mocks, they happen in the middle of the school year. Like it is so stressful because you're learning something one week and then the next week you're getting examined in it. So like, while they definitely are great for getting a feel of what the exam will feel like on the day, they're not exactly the best measurement results wise, I don't think, because you haven't covered everything. There's no way you can study, and the questions are the same or similar to how they're going to be in the exam. So like, there's no way you could be at an exam level 3 or 4 months before the exam. I just think it's kind of crazy.
I think it's definitely a great test run as well, in that way that you can figure out your strategy for time management and all that kind of stuff, because that's a big thing. And like, even when we say maths, I don't know if it's the same as when I did it, but you could choose a certain amount of sections. You didn't have to answer like every question, obviously. So going through and finding the ones that I could definitely answer and doing them first, like building your confidence up as you go in and then becoming more and more comfortable by the more and more questions you do. All that kind of stuff you figure out in the mocks, and you really find your way in that sense. So I think that's what they're so great for. It's really not as, I mean, obviously you want to get kind of good results and know where you're at, but it's not the be all and end all in that way. It's about finding out, how do I approach the Leaving Cert? Where do I need to put my attention first? Because I think very rarely for each exam, I didn't do it in chronological order. You kind of do them in the order that suits you best, or the thing that maybe you're the best at, or maybe the thing that worries you the most so you can get it done. Or it's either way and give you the most time on that. So it's kind of finding what works for you and what's the best way to approach it. Yeah,
and I think it's important as well. And Andy, I kind of want to get your opinion on this, because I know you had mentioned it kind of about not getting completely consumed by the work and like kind of taking a step back from that. I feel like it could be so easy to just, like, when you come back from Christmas, you see all these exams, drop what you're doing, like drop whatever you're involved in and just go with it. Like, what do you think would be the advice for students there?
I know when I was in school, I was involved a lot in stuff, in like after school stuff and other stuff even outside of school. But like, I was lucky to be in a school that had a lot of emphasis on sport and music. So I did a lot of stuff during my Leaving Cert, and that was like, I played hockey. I was in like a few choirs and bands and things like that, and even just other sports, even just going to watch, like if there was like rugby and stuff on in the school, going to watch that kind of thing. Things to just like, okay, I'm studying tonight, but I have this hockey match or whatever, something to look forward to tomorrow. So if I get this done, then that gives me, I kind of have a rest a bit tomorrow at this time, or this rest day. So it's really important, I think, to have that balance, because that's what helped me. Because I found, sixth year was probably the year I almost enjoyed the most out of all 6 years in school, which is really weird to say, because you don't think that going in, but I mean, it's just being the kings of the school is really nice, and getting to do, I just felt like doing all the extra activities, really throwing yourself into all that, because it's your last year in school, and I tell you, it doesn't feel like it, but when you leave, you're going to miss it. So I think realizing all the opportunities that are there as well, and finding a balance, obviously still have to do the work, but trying to find, okay, I'll do this night, get my study done, then I can have that little bit of relaxing tomorrow where I'm playing my sport, I'm having fun with my friends. So you're not completely just burnt out the whole time.
Yeah, Andy, it sounds like you were like Troy Bolton trying to choose between choir and your hockey career in school. Yeah, I think that's so important, and I think it is kind of around this time of year when people are getting back to school. I feel like you can kind of keep things going the other side of Christmas, like before Christmas. But then I feel like people just get so freaked out. We done a survey recently, and we'll be doing another one where basically, I can't remember the exact percentage, but a very high amount of people had left their sport or their extracurricular activity coming up to the exams, like whether it be they got scared after the mocks or like they saw some bad results at the mocks and just dropped everything and just like I couldn't think of any, like, I feel like people had to choose between the two when really like one can help the other, like you said, like having something to look forward to. I don't know, we stress it all the time, even, and I think Nessa and Emer used to touch on it as well beforehand. They've done a podcast just about it, and maybe we will too in the future, but just kind of not giving up your like passions or whatever you're into.
Yeah.
And sacrificing them because of the exams, because
Yeah.
it could come back on you. You could get overwhelmed. Burnout is a real thing, and it's something as well that people, it kind of ties in so well with the mocks. Have you ever experienced it, Erin, like proper like burnout before exams?
Kind of. I want to come in on what you were talking about just there. I had a lot going on during Leaving Cert, like actually during my mocks. I think this is something worth bringing up. I did musical theatre, and I did that.
Theatre kid.
Yes.
For everyone listening, all three of us are kind of low-key theatre kids, but don't worry.
I was doing a musical
as
well in 6th year.
Yeah. Not today anyway. But no, I basically the group that I was in, we do this like kind of concert thing around January, February time, and then we do like a musical in the summertime. And nearly everybody else who was in 6th year with me decided not to do the concert because they were like, okay, like it's, you know, around mocks time, makes sense. And I was like, I want to do it anyways. So I did literally the weekend in between my mocks went over like the span of a week and a half. I had a concert just like right in the middle of that, so like my whole weekend in between my mocks was just gone doing that, and like it was stressful. You know, I did spend a lot of my time backstage just like looking at flashcards or whatever, but like I wouldn't have done it any differently, you know, because it was something that made me happy. And I think having those things that do make you happy is so important during your Leaving Cert, because you have other things to look forward to. Like, it's not your whole life. It might seem like the exams are your whole life, you know, during 6th year, but they're really, really not. And you know, I think if you can, even in school, like getting involved in like committees or like clubs or things like that, like it's so important to have other things to focus your time towards, and like to kind of feel like you're accomplishing things outside of just, you know, your exam results or whatever, because it's so, if you just have nothing going on, like you're not going to feel as kind of motivated, I don't think. And I think as well, for me, having like other things taking up my time anyways, like outside of exams, made me more organized, because I kind of learned like when I should prioritize what. It's kind of like what you were saying, Andy, like if I like did, you know, something one day, like I'd be able to say to myself, okay, like if I got like a piece of study done or like whatever I needed to do, I could, you know, feel comfortably that like I'd be able to do like my show or whatever the next day and like feel okay about that. So I think yeah, burnout, it's definitely important to avoid it, and like, you know, obviously you don't want to have too much on for yourself, but I think it's definitely about finding that kind of balance. It's not really worth it at the end of the day. Like, you have to kind of look after yourself too.
100%. Were you like good for like kind of going back to kind of more academic stuff, were you good for like study techniques, or were you kind of just give it all a go, like read it all, like did you have to write things down, or what was your kind of, and I think as well after Christmas is when people kind of go, well, okay, I want to study, but how? You know, it kind of is kind of a question is, I work in customer support for Studyclix as well, and like one of the main questions we get in is just like, how, like, you know, I have all these great notes, like, but how do you study? Were either of you good for, maybe Andy, I'll come to you, like good for like actual study techniques, or what was your kind of process?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I work for Studyclix, but at the time,
shameless plug. He's got a shameless plug here, guys.
There's a great company. When I was in 6th year, we had a deal or whatever, so it was cheaper for us to get it in school. And especially, I think after the mocks, when I got closer to, I was so sick of taking notes and that kind of thing. Now, I wasn't dependent on the subject, like history and things like that. I had a little bit more notes, but like definitely as I got towards the last 2 months, I was so fed up of writing my own notes. I was just so much, I'm on Studyclix, I'm going to do past paper, or I'm going to do a question, or that was basically the last 2 months. All my study consisted of that. That's just what worked for me. Other people are going to be very different in like highlighting things, but I do a little bit of that. But it never was what really got me comfortable. I think was that last month or two, just doing question after question after question, and can be monotonous. But then it's great as well, because you can bring a question that you've done and then bring it into your teacher and go, oh, look, I struggled with this as well, and could you help me? And that was a great way to show them what you needed help with as well. And also what you need to remember is that I found something I never thought about was that when you get just before the Leaving Cert, you actually get quite a lot of time. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but in my school, I got a lot of time in class to study myself, because we had finished all the work at that stage. Now, sometimes they gave us stuff to study ourselves, but sometimes they go, you can have today to study whatever you want. So you actually get a lot of time to study in school as well as at home, I found, when you get closer to the exam, is something I never thought of. So that was really helpful as well. But yeah, just doing questions after question on Studyclix, or just past papers, that kind of thing was what got me.
Yeah, I think that for me it was like, Studyclix actually has a lot more now than it did even when I was in Sorry guys, I know the shameless plug is wild, but I'm sorry, we have to. We can't deny it. But yeah, I just think as well, because Studyclix, you know, if you have premium, you actually get access to the mock papers. Mock papers are like low-key a different breed of exam. Like they are a little bit different. Like they phrase things a little bit different. And that's why a lot of people, I think people say the mocks are harder for two reasons. It's like, the first one is like, they're not used to the exam. Like we were just saying, like they don't know the layout, or they're not getting a grasp of it. And then the second one is sometimes the questions can just be phrased that little bit weirder. I don't know what it is. Like it's not necessarily harder. It's just maybe the language they use. So that's why kind of if you can to get, yeah, exactly. If you can to get your hands on some mock papers and have a look at them and kind of see how that works. Now, again, with just the papers themselves, you get a good idea. But yeah, I don't know. I do agree. I was the exact same. Like I feel like sometimes when you're about like 2 months out from something, or a month and a half or so, and you kind of, I think doing the kind of things like the blurt method and the Pomodoro technique, like I know all these like names for techniques and I vaguely know how to use them, but then when it comes down to it, when it's crunch time, I just end up just looking, even in exams I've done in college since, I just look at what has been asked before. Like there's a science to these exams. Like there is a kind of formula of questions that they're going to ask, and when you're super used to it, it kind of does make it easier. So I think that, like, especially for the mocks, circling back to what we had said, you know, the exam questions, if you're used to at least what they look like, never mind, you know, what the content is, if you're at least used to what they look like, I think that's the best approach to take. If you're kind of cutting it a bit fine, like as in if the mocks are like coming soon, then maybe like exam paper, and also like don't try and, well, I would just advise like not try and look at exam questions of things you haven't even covered. Like I just think you're just losing, fighting a losing battle. Yeah, I just think that maybe you're kind of going to shoot yourself in the foot with that. I think it would be better to kind of focus on the things that you've covered. I don't know, Erin, do you have, maybe you're different? You kind of seem like someone, Erin, you kind of give me the vibe of someone who's like nice notes, like highlighted well, like put together. If you're not, this is going to be offensive.
No. I mean, like, I tried to be. I definitely tried to be. I had like all my folders for my different subjects, and I like, you know, yeah. So you kind of read me there, but anyway, I don't know. I found definitely like exam papers definitely were the best way that I found that I learned though. Like I don't know, when I wrote my notes, like I wanted them to look nice, but then I like rarely would look at them again, so it was just kind of like, why did you bother? But like I don't know, I think because we were the same. We had like the deal with Studyclix in school too, not to shameless plug also, but like, you know, it was just handy because like you just, you know, I go through for certain subjects, especially like, I don't know, did any of you do biology in school? Yeah, like the exam questions are so repetitive. Like I would literally, I think as well, like getting to know the marking scheme for a lot of subjects is really helpful, because biology, like the same things come up again and again and again, and it's literally just by like doing the same questions over and over again, they would just like stick in my brain, and I'd like literally know like the questions kind of off by heart, like, you know, at that point. And I think for subjects like maths, it's so important to get into the style of practicing questions, because like looking at notes is not going to help you for maths really, or it didn't help me anyways. So I think that was definitely the best way. I also I love watching like solution videos for maths and just like following along as if I was doing them myself. You know, which Studyclix was great for, because there is a lot of maths resources obviously on the website. Like I use Maths Boost a lot, which I genuinely found so helpful.
Oh yeah, it's so weird that you had Maths Boost, because it's pretty new. Like that just shows how fresh out of school you are, Erin.
Yeah, but I don't know, I just found it so helpful to like have resources like that, like actually explaining things, because I feel like that's kind of the best way that I learned. Like I kind of learned by doing. I just love like testing myself. Like I would even have like I'd get like or I'd love a whiteboard. Like I would like test myself. I would just like write everything out on a whiteboard, like as much as like I know you're saying about the blurt method there. I mean, I don't know if that's what I was really going for, but just like writing things out again and again and again, like until they were like in my head. Same. I don't know, I think definitely testing yourself is the best way that you can study, especially at this point in time. Like you kind of just want to see what you actually do know, and like that there's no point kind of dwelling on things that you mightn't really have covered. Like it's better just kind of perfecting what you know now, because I think the thing with the mocks is like it's really just about the experience of doing them rather than like results or anything like that, you know. So I think getting to grips with how the exams actually work and figuring out what kind of works for you in terms of like study and things like that is like what's crucial now.
the mocks themselves are just kind of like one giant like blurt method. Like
Yeah.
they really are just a thing of like, okay, well, here's the exam. How much can you write down? How much can you remember?
The leaving
at this
cert in
point?
general, like
Yeah,
say exams.
that
to be
is true.
honest.
Not just the
Yeah.
mocks. Yeah, no, that is true. And I just feel like people kind of get so caught up in trying to, like, I know myself. Okay, once again, I did get predicted grades. I'm outing myself. Okay, guys, sorry, but I did.
25.
But before, yeah, 65, guys. You know how it is. No, but that's the thing. My mocks were not by any means like out of this world. But I feel like people always go up in the mocks. Like it's so rare that you hear of people who go down, and if they go down, like they got a crazy good mock results and also got crazy good leaving cert. You know what I mean? It usually is kind of just and always on the up, and I feel like people need to like switch their kind of like their thinking around the mocks from like this is like a mini state exam, which it kind of is, into like this is like a test for me right now, and also a way of getting experience of how an exam works, going into a room with, you know, like some people haven't done that since junior cert. I'm not sure about now, but even last year some people hadn't sat the junior. Did you have to do the junior cert?
Yeah, no, I didn't do a junior cert, so my
do you know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
That was the first experience that I had like in an exam hall with like a state exam like kind of experience. So I think that for me was the most important thing, like rather than actually, you know, getting results out of the exams, it was just like getting used to what it would actually be like.
Yeah. Some people never experienced it.
Yeah.
Okay, Andy, I did my junior cert. And I did my mocks too, I have to say. This is the thing, like I got all of the bad parts of like the quote unquote bad parts, because I actually agree 6th year was such crack, but like I got all of the bad parts of the leaving cert except the actual exams. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
But that's actually kind of feeds into what I was saying. Did anyone else? I kind of found the mocks go crack. I don't know what it was. It was like it was like 2 weeks, and like there was no classes in between the exams.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're finished early, you go home, and like also when you're in the thick of it, like as in once they start, like there is really only so much you can do. Like, you know, that kind of feeling of like, literally, well, if I don't know it now, like obviously it's good to. I'm a big believer in having a quick look the night before. But like there's only so much you can do. So I had a ball. I remember like in between exams we used to like go on walks. Like I had a great time. I don't know about you guys. Maybe that was just me.
Just like go to the shop after, treat ourselves. Like I don't know, or like just beforehand, just like literally laughing at myself. I'd be like, okay, well, this is it. Like, yeah. I kind of felt that with the leaving cert too, though. Like it's obviously it was very, you know, high tension and stressful in some ways, but also like it kind of got to a point where it was just like, well, like, you know, there is nothing else that can be done at this point. Like it was kind of a lot more unserious than I was expecting.
Yeah.
In like the mocks and the leaving cert, I don't know. I feel like you kind of build it up to be this like massive thing, and then you're there, and you're like, well, it's just what it is. Like
what now?
It's over so quickly after studying for so long, and then you're just like you come out. Because all your friends and everybody's gone through the same thing together, and you kind of all like an adrenaline. It's really weird when you come out of an exam. It's like it's kind of a crazy feeling that you're all like, oh, did you get that? Oh no, that's a shame. And so I didn't get that right. And it's like,
and there's nothing you can do about it at that point. Like, you know, and same with like, especially with the mocks. Like I remember I left a mock once. I think it was like maybe history or something I had to like write a lot in, and I didn't write as much as I should have, and I just left it, and I was like, I actually just laughed, like we all just laughed at how like the exam went so badly for us all, and we were like, well, like that's it, gone to get corrected. And that's the thing as well, the results come back quite quick for mocks. Like I found my results came back, I think I got them like within a month or something. When did your mocks happen? Do people's mocks happen at different times? Ours were always in like early February, I think. Or when's yours?
Ours were like end of January kind of.
Okay.
Yes. I think mine were after midterm.
Really?
Yeah. Some people have them really late. I don't know what that's about. I don't think I'd like that.
I had a bit longer.
Also, people are so bad for spoilers, like mock spoilers. Like it's shocking.
Leaks.
Like it's so bad. And leaks, literally. Like, it's such like everyone's like, oh, does anyone have like the English paper? Like, I do think like anyone listening to this who's frantically looking for the English paper or something, if you're listening to this like for your mocks, like you're better off just not seeing it. Because,
no, literally
like,
don't.
By the time you see the leak,
and
it's too late to turn around. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's not gonna be life changing. You're better off just giving it a go and seeing what level you're actually at. Like, because you're not going to see a leak for that even, sir.
And don't rely on the leaks, because even if you think that your school gets them from one company or whatever, like you might see a leak and be fully confident, rely on that, and then go in and realize it's a different paper, and then what do you do?
That happens every year. Like on TikTok, you see like people being like, "Oh, this is like I don't know the name of the two companies
like
that do it, but
Examcraft or
and DEB or something." Yeah. And you know, this is the Examcraft one, and then like it turns out it was like the DEB one all along, and people have studied like one singular
or I think some of them have like two options of
they have A and B.
Yeah. So like you can't fully rely on any of that. So you're literally so much better off going in and like seeing what you know because
I think so too.
It's not
and also like, who are you fooling? Like you're not going to see it the day. I do kind of get it. I get why people are like, well, okay, I won't be seeing it before the leaving cert, but at least like I'll have more time before the leaving cert to cover more.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, oh, also you pay for the mocks, you might as well just like get your money's worth. Like, you know, I think
suppose.
Don't you pay for the mocks, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think to get them corrected and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get the results back fast. That is the best thing about them, I think, because you're not like left waiting for the entire summer like the leaving cert. Does anybody have any more thoughts on any kind of mock related things like study tips or anything last minute? I don't want to drag on and stress these people out. If you're listening to this, you could be procrastinating mock study, so I don't want to interrupt that, guys.
Or maybe they're studying along to this.
Maybe they are. Maybe
our soothing voices. Hey. They got this far. Well done. Do
you listen to anything? Can you listen to anything while you study? Either of you?
That's a great question.
I did music, so I just would listen to the set works that we had to do over and over. Like we did, there was the Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture. I would listen to that like on loop constantly as I studied.
Your Spotify Wrapped after leaving.
Yes,
so
no, literally. Yeah, it was. But I think, I don't know, like, because it was handy because I was like getting it into my head and then also simultaneously studying. But I couldn't really listen to music with like words. Like I could only listen to like classical music.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, just kind of, not like just my normal playlist, because I'd get really like overwhelmed and not be able to concentrate, or I'd start like writing down what I was listening to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I listen to pink noise, which is like white noise but smoother. There's also brown noise. There's like every type of noise, and it's like there is differences.
Are they very
like
different?
Like there are. Like white noise is real shrill, and pink noise is a little softer. So I listen to pink noise when I'm studying, and then like sometimes I take out my like AirPods or whatever after studying. I feel like the world around me sounds incorrect. Like it should all sound like pink noise. But I do find it kind of handy, especially if you study in like kind of a busier environment. Like I know some people study in libraries. Like I know I went to college in UL, and around like the end of the year you'd see loads of like people with like exam papers out on the desk. You'd be thinking, okay, well they're obviously not college students. So people do study in libraries, and I feel like it's good to have something kind of bit of background noise on, because they can get really loud. What about you, Andy? You probably listen to like
just
track or something.
Musical theatre blaring. No, I mean, if I would try to do that, but it would be terrible because I wouldn't actually concentrate, and I really wanted to do that, and I really wanted it to work, but it wouldn't. Well, I think I did it for a while, but I think I, in the end, stopped listening to anything. I think it just distracted me too much. I would just be singing along way too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually the exact same. If the music's too upbeat. But yeah, like lots of people do find podcasts good. I know like people, like you were saying, kind of it was like semi-studying for you, Erin, but like there's also, once again, guys, Studyclix resource time. But there are podcasts of like say different poets. There'll be like an English teacher talking through them. They're on the Studyclix Explains Spotify podcast channel, and I think wherever you get your podcasts. And they're actually really good too. I think for just like if you're going for a walk or something, when you should be studying. Although important to take walks where you're not studying, but you know, if you just don't want to do anything where you're sitting at a desk, to just listen to that, because I feel like, or like even people have started using that like AI podcast thing. Have you seen that? Where like two people talk about, like, you like type in a topic and then two AI bots talk over and back to each other about the topic.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. But sometimes they can lie. Like sometimes they can actually like lie to your face. Like they could just be telling you like actual lies. The Studyclick stuff isn't AI and it's real, so use that instead. But no, I think like for more like niche random topics, like I did one once like to see what it was like, and it did just like actually like lie to my face. And
I hope we're better than AI. But
we are better than AI. Yeah, imagine at the end of this we were like, by the way, guys, Erin, Andy, and Luke are all AI. They're not real. They're all bots.
That's actually crazy. I'm a deep fake.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything. I think that we've kind of covered a lot of bases there about what to expect from the mocks, and also to not get too bogged down by them. And hopefully we can touch on in future episodes kind of a little bit more on the kind of, I think we had a really interesting conversation there about not giving up your sport and stuff. So I think it might be good to get more chatting about that and kind of dedicate a podcast to that, because I think that's something people really struggle with. And maybe we... Yeah, I agree. Cracking 6th year. 5th and 6th year were both so good. Exactly. Yeah, because like you said, like it is the last time. But also, actually, I forgot to say, like junior cycle, there's mocks too. So if you're in junior cert, it's the same. Do you know, like it's not just, you know, in leaving cert, it's easy to kind of keep a sport going and saying, well, it's my last year, so I have to give it a go. But also, it's so hard to get back onto the bandwagon if you like give something up in third year to get back to it. But anyway, that's another topic for another podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully we will see you all again soon. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.